Alright, let's engineer a pizza. So I'm going to use my sourdough starter right here, and we are going to make a pizza with it. So the first thing we need to do is make a levain. So I'm going to use this empty cup right here to make an active starter. We need 100 grams of starter. Now we're going to transfer some of this starter into this empty cup. Now I'm going to try not to spill any of it, but let's see how that goes. I think I've already spilled a little bit of it. It's been a while since I've fed this starter, so I want to do a 1 to 2 to 2 ratio. So I'm thinking about getting 25 grams of starter and 50 grams of flour and water to have a 1 to 2 to 2 ratio, and that way I'll have a really active starter. And now we're going to add 50 grams of flour. Now you want to get it pretty much exact in this case. It doesn't have to be a perfect 50 grams, but you want to get it as close as you can because these recipes can be a little finicky if you don't. I'm just going to use a normal scale and just get 50 grams, just as I did before, of all-purpose flour. Doesn't really have to be bread flour yet. Alright, now that we have 50 grams of flour, it's time to add in 50 grams of water. Now I have water poured in this liquid measuring cup. I'm just going to add it as slow as I can so that I don't overshoot. It's hard to get rid of water if you overshoot. Anyway, I'm going to try to get as close as I can to 50 grams so that we can have a 1-to-1 ratio of flour and water. Now that that's taken care of, it's time to give it a mix. Now I'm going to try to make sure I mix all the way down to the very bottom. I'm going to try to make sure there is no dry flour on the edges or anywhere, and that it's all well mixed so that it can rise like it should. And you're going to mark about where it is. So let's say about right there. And it'll triple in size. And when it triples in size, that's how you know you're ready to use it. Now this right here is about what it's supposed to look like. It not quite triple in size, but it's between double and triple. I would say 2.5 times the original size. Okay, now I got the ingredients. So we have 500 grams of bread flour, our bubbly starter, salt, olive oil, and water. So the first thing we need to do is add some of the starter here. Plop that in there. Jeez. Come on, there you go. Scoop of that. And 99, we'll call that good enough. Now you need 120 grams of water. I don't know what I said. 320 grams of water is what we need. Perfect. What we want to do first actually is stir this. Get all nice and all right, that looks good. So now we're going to add all the bread flour. I've already measured it. So we're just going to dump it all in there. Yes, we'll dump it all at once. Now we get 15 grams of olive oil. There we go. Perfect, 15 grams. And we're going to mix all this together. We're not going to add the salt yet because we're going to want this to autolyse before we add the salt. So this is more or less what it looks like after it's been fully mixed. We have not added the salt yet. We're going to do a few stretch and folds. I believe we're going to do 3 sets of stretch and fold. We're going to wait 45 minutes before the first one for it to autolyse. Before the first one, we'll add in the salt. And after we do the first stretch and fold, we'll wait 30 minutes between the second and third one. We're going to cover this with a damp towel, and I'll see y'all during the first stretch and fold. So the reason why you want it to autolyse for 45 minutes is because you want the first strands of gluten to be able to form strongly. Now, salt can inhibit the growth of gluten, which is why you add it later. So I waited 45 minutes before the first stretch and fold, and basically what the stretch and fold is you pull one kind of corner and you put it in, and then you rotate it 90 degrees, and you just keep going until you've done all 4 quote-unquote corners, even though it is circular, pretty much circular. And I'm going to wait 30 minutes between the first stretch and fold and the second stretch and fold, and the second stretch and fold and the third stretch and fold. And once I do that, I'm going to let it bulk ferment for about 6 hours before I decide to shape it. So this is what it looks like after the stretch and folds. You can see it's a lot smoother. So I'm gonna let it bulk ferment for about 6 hours. It's not gonna quite double in size. It's actually probably gonna be about 1.5 times the size. We don't really want it to double in size when we're doing a pizza, or else it's just gonna turn into a shaggy, disgusting mess. Because after 6 hours, it was like 3 in the morning and I didn't want to work with it. So I went ahead and put it in the refrigerator, but I'm pretty sure this isn't required. All right, now I'm gonna use this little scooper that I have to try to get as much dough as I can out of the bowl. Now I'm gonna go ahead and try to scrape the sides as much as I can and just try to get every last bit of dough out of the bowl so that I have all the dough for the pizza dough. And yeah. This process really does take a minute, but it is worth it. And you can kind of see that it's a little shaggy, but that's okay. Now here, I'm gonna divide the dough. Once again, it's a little shaggy, but that is totally okay. I'm gonna weigh the dough so that I make sure I have 2 equal pieces. All right, time to fold this thing. Now this is definitely the hardest part because it is nice and sticky. You wanna make sure your hands are nice and wet so that the dough doesn't stick to you. Sourdough can be very, very finicky about that. So I'm gonna fold the corners in on each other, and then I'm gonna just try to maneuver it in a way that allows the skin on the top to form and it just forms something underneath. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be fully honest. I haven't really made too many sourdough pizzas, and sourdough is already really, really tough to work with. But I guess, I mean, it's forming okay. I'm gonna try to mimic what I'm doing on the other one as well. All right, I think I got something, so I'm actually gonna see what I can do to try to get it onto this baking sheet. I have the baking sheet with parchment paper. All right, let's see what I can do to try to get it on this baking sheet. I think it looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the refrigerator for 24 to 48 hours. That allows the flavor to form. Now you can use it now, but waiting 24 to 48 hours really allows that flavor to kick in. So I went back through and I went ahead and reshaped it with flour because it was starting to melt quite a bit. I think it turned out pretty okay. This looks very, very domey like a pizza normally should whenever I see it on videos. Hopefully this keeps its shape, and tomorrow we will actually make the pizza. All right, now here's all the ingredients that I have. I'm gonna go ahead and prep these, and with a snap of my finger, yep, now they're all good to go. Let's go ahead and stretch this dough. Now, it's been sitting on my counter for about an hour, 15 minutes so that it can warm up. Once it warms up, the gluten is gonna stretch a little bit easier. I'm using Durham wheat flour because Durham wheat flour kind of acts as ball bearings whenever it's on the cast iron or whatever pizza stone you're using. And I'm gonna go ahead and just put some on both sides, and I'm gonna very, very carefully stretch. I'm not gonna use a rolling pin, but I'm gonna very, very carefully stretch so that it doesn't tear. If it does tear, just wet your fingers and try to mesh it back together. On a pizza, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But yeah. Now it's time for me to try to get this into the cast iron. So hopefully this goes well. I mean, I might just need to stretch it out a little bit. The cast iron is well oiled. That's definitely a must do before you put it in there. Trust me, you do not want to take the pizza dough out or else you'll risk tearing it. Time to add a little bit of the sauce. I'm going to try to smooth it out as the best as I can. Now I'm going to try to get a really, really good coverage of cheese here. I don't want to miss anything, but I don't want to do too much. One of the biggest mistakes whenever people make pizza for the first time is that they use way too much cheese. You don't really need a whole lot, but at the same time, you want a good coverage. Now it's time to add some vegetables. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a handful here, and I'm just gonna throw it on the pizza. Ooh, how did that happen? Well, this is my best attempt at making Master Chief. I hope y'all like it. Yeah, I haven't even played Halo Infinity War or whatever it is, and apparently there's some new Halo levels coming out. I don't even know. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the oven. I know there's pizza ovens that exist, but unfortunately they're about $250, and that's about $500 over my budget. So I'm gonna put this in the oven about 500 degrees for 10 minutes. Look at this. This honestly looks really, really amazing. I put this on broil for about 60 seconds, and it just looks immaculate. All right, time to cut this pizza. It's actually cutting very, very well. That means it was cooked all the way through and it's gonna be nice and crunchy. Honestly, after tasting this pizza, it is a really, really, really good pizza, and you can definitely taste the sourdough in it. This is what the cross-sectional area looks like. This pizza was really, really good, and I highly recommend making it. The only change is just make sure whenever you're shaping the pizza that you use flour. Anyway, happy baking.